What's up, you guys? How you doing? It's Blake Bowman here with GuerrillaZen Fitness, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you a corrective exercise routine that you can go through at home using just a foam roller to correct the muscle imbalances associated with posterior pelvic tilt or swayback posture. Posterior pelvic tilt is when your pelvis tucks underneath you like this. So if this is the front of your pelvis and this is the back of your pelvis, you're supposed to have a little bit of a forward tilt. When it posteriorly tilts, that means that the bottom is coming down underneath the top or the front, and your kind of tail is tucking beneath you like a dog. Before we get into this video, I'm really active on Instagram nowadays, so make sure you go check out my Instagram channel over here. And I upload tons of content like this, corrective exercises for posture. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do that. Other than that, let's get started with the exercises. We're gonna start off with some foam rolling exercises. Anytime you have a muscular imbalance, that's always a two-sided coin, meaning there are always tight muscles that need to be foam rolled and released, and there are always weak muscles that need to be strengthened. Today we're gonna start with the tight muscles that need to be released in association with this type of posture. The first one is going to be the glutes, all right? So the most effective way to roll the glutes that I like is to do one cheek at a time, put the cheek down, cross that leg over on top of the other leg, and simply roll back and forth on that muscle. We're gonna do about 12 times. Back and forth is 1, all right? So I'm not really counting. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know I'm notorious at counting very poorly. We're gonna do about 12 rolls back and forth on this cheek though. And then as soon as we're done with this side, we're gonna do the other side. So that was approximately 12. We're gonna go ahead and mix it up here. Same thing on the other side. We're just going back and forth. You're looking for the tight spots. Any spot that you find that has tightness, you can kind of stay back and forth. You can stay right on it rather. You can, you know, neutralize the range of the rolls and kind of focus on that a little bit more. But if you don't find that, just kind of roll the entire glute and make sure you're getting a good release throughout all of the glute musculature. We're gonna foam roll next the hamstrings, okay? The hamstrings are very short and tight in people that have sway back with posterior pelvic tilt. The way that I like to do this is to put the roller down, kind of stack my other leg on top of it, and kind of lean into it like this, all right? And you're simply rolling back and forth on the hamstring. We're gonna go about 12 rolls here too. When you're doing this lean, you're kind of getting more of the outside hamstring, the lateral hamstring. So I'll do a couple like that, and then I'll position myself a little bit differently so I'm facing forward. This way I have more, you know, more pressure with the roller directly in the back of my hamstring, and then I'll kind of face the other way too. It's kind of hard to stack your leg for this, but I'll do a couple kind of facing away as well to work the inner hamstrings. We're gonna do about 12 rolls back and forth, just like what we did on the glutes. So we're gonna work the other side now. Same thing, start by kind of getting the lateral hamstring, leaning to the outside like I'm doing. Do a couple rolls back and forth, then face forward. A couple rolls here. Anything you could do to apply extra downward pressure on the leg that you're rolling is gonna help to assist in the release. And now we're gonna work those kind of inner hamstring muscle fibers here. Make sure that you're getting the entire length of the hamstring from just behind the knee all the way up to the bone in your butt. It's called the ischial tuberosity, all right? You wanna be working the full length of those hamstrings. The next area that we're gonna foam roll are the calves. The calves and the hamstrings are connected on one myofascial continuity. Basically, there's a big line of connective tissue that connects your calves to your hamstrings, and your hamstrings and your calves, they're gonna be tight together with this type of postural misalignment, so we want to roll out the calves too. Put one leg on the roller, stack your other leg on top of it to add a little bit of downwards pressure. Lift your body up, roll back and forth. 12 times here again. You can kind of, similar to the hamstrings, work the outer fibers by pointing your toes out a little bit. You can work more of the central fibers with the toes up, and you can work more of those inner medial fibers with the toes kind of pointing in like this. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Make sure you're counting along at home. Your reps, 12 is the magic number for today. If this is too hard for you to hold your weight up, you don't actually have to hold your weight up like this. you can simply go back and forth like this. All right, so make sure you're continuing to roll that hamstring as I'm talking here. Also, if you're somebody that has like a percussion massager, like a hyper ice, that is frankly more effective than any kind of foam roller is. So if you have one of those, you can just use that on these areas that we're foam rolling today instead of actually foam rolling them. Okay, now that we're done with the foam rolling, we're gonna move into some other things. The first thing that we're gonna do is a nerve glide. This is basically going to help release the hamstrings even further. We just sort of pre-loosen them with some foam rolling. Now we're gonna do a nerve glide technique. Lay on your back, just like this, be relaxed. Extend one leg up, kind of lace your fingers behind the knee. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna roll the ankle clockwise about 10 times. You should really feel this in your ankle and your hamstrings. Try to keep your leg as straight as possible. We're gonna do about 10 rolls clockwise. We're gonna switch it up and go counterclockwise. Same thing. What this is doing is it's helping to shut down the hamstrings, okay? Which are oftentimes gonna be overactive and tight with this type of postural alignment. So we're really aggressively kind of attacking these today with both our foam rolling and now this. Same thing on the other leg, 10 clockwise revolutions of the ankle, and then we're gonna do 10 counterclockwise. For those of you that are watching right now, I'm moving counterclockwise with my ankle, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you switch up the direction and you're doing 10 on each side. Trying to keep that knee straight. It's okay if it has a slight bend, but you're gonna get more out of it with the leg straight. Now we're gonna move into something called a McKenzie Pushup or upward facing dog. You know, there's lots of names for this. The way that you do it though, is you're gonna lay flat on your belly like this. You're gonna bring your thumbs in so that they're like level with your chest. And then you're gonna push yourself up like this. We're gonna do 10 of these. What we're trying to do here is get the spine to extend, the lower back to arch. We're also trying to stretch your abs, your rectus abdominis. They're gonna be really tight when you have swayback, all right? This helps to kind of open up the front of the body and get that, curve to start to come back into low back, which you are likely missing if you have swayback posture or posterior pelvic tilt, which kind of are the same thing. They kind of go hand in hand. We're gonna do 10 of these, and on the last one, I have no idea what we're at. I'm just gonna assume this is 10. We're gonna hold this last one for a few seconds here, kind of maybe twisting, experimenting with different angles. I like to kind of rotate like this, right? Don't rotate too much though, and if this hurts your back, then don't do it. Try to work on your breathing here, especially down into your belly. And that's it. We're gonna move on to the next exercise. We're gonna do something now called a supine self-resisted hip flexion. Okay, I know that sounds fancy, but I promise you it's not fancy to actually do, or complicated. You're gonna lay on your back. Let me get in the frame here a little bit better for you. Lay on your back. You're gonna take two hands like this, push them on your knee, all right? Kind of actually try to tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit the entire time as you're doing this so that you're maintaining a slight arch in the low back, all right? Try to maintain that arch in the low back. As you press down on the thigh here, use your hip flexor muscles to pull the knee up into the chest and then let it go back down. We're doing active hip flexions here for 10 reps. We're simply using our arms to provide resistance to the leg. So instead of lifting weights or using a hip flexion strengthening machine, we're using our arms to provide the resistance instead. So don't push too hard. You're probably gonna be weak in these muscles. We're gonna do 10 on this side and then we're gonna switch to the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and switch to the other side now. Again, tilt that pelvis forwards slightly with a slight arch in your low back the whole time as we do this. Doing 2 sets of 10 each side. Like I was saying though, do not overpower your hip flexors too much with your arms by pushing so hard that you can't pull your knee up, right? You're just trying to provide a little bit of resistance, make those muscles work harder than they would otherwise have to. And as you get stronger, you can push harder with your legs after you've done this routine a couple times. All right, right now, we're just trying to get those hip flexors firing again. We're gonna do 10 reps and then we're gonna go back to the original side. What we're doing with this is we're strengthening the hip flexors, right? With a slight anterior tilt to the pelvis and a slight arch in the low back. When you have posterior pelvic tilt with swayback, your hip flexors are gonna be weak, right? So unlike people that have the opposite postural alignment of anterior pelvic tilt, which is excessive forward tilting of the pelvis, we need to actually be strengthening the hip flexors, not stretching them and releasing them. And what we're doing with this flow is strengthening them right now. All right, pushing, slight arch in the low back, forward tilted pelvis, try to maintain it the whole time. We're gonna do about 10 more reps. If I miscounted on the previous exercises here, reps and sets, forgive me. I'm gonna do about 5 more. Trying to maintain that arch in the back the whole time. Really making those hip flexors work. You feel a nice burn kind of in your the front of your hips here with this exercise. Our next strengthening exercise is going to be supine unilateral knee extensions. Again, sounds fancy. It's not complicated or fancy to do. You're gonna lay back. We're gonna get in a similar position that we were just in for that last exercise. Slight forwards tilt to the pelvis, producing that arch in the low back. Now you're gonna just bring one leg, you're gonna bring your knee up here, arms stay down by the sides the whole time. You're gonna extend your leg up and then let your knee bend again. We're doing 10 of these. This is it. This is also working the hip flexors, but in a different manner, all right? You're trying to keep that arch in the low back the whole time. You're trying to keep that pelvis slightly tilted forwards the whole time, because what we're trying to do here is teach your body to restore and maintain that lumbar curvature. All right, we're gonna go ahead and switch to the other leg, which if you have posterior pelvic tilt and sway back is likely going to be missing for you. So this is another one that should be lighting up those hip flexors. You should be feeling it right about there. And we're gonna do this for 10 reps on each leg. We're gonna do 2 sets. All right, we're gonna go back to the original leg here. I can really feel this in my own hip flexors, just demonstrating this for you guys. These are effective exercises for really lighting up this area. We're gonna do 4 more. Try to keep that pelvis tilted forward. Try to keep that arch in the low back there. And do 1 more on this side. Again, forgive me if I'm counting wrong. We're gonna do our last 10 on our last leg here. Don't let your knee drop down this way as you're doing it. Keep it up, try to keep your knee at about a 90-degree angle with your upper body. Fully extend that leg. The tighter your hamstrings are, the harder this is going to be for you to extend the leg, which is why we actually started with so much myofascial release and inhibition of the hamstrings. But that's it for that one. We'll move on to the next one now. All right, we're gonna hop up and be standing for these next 2 sets. And what we're gonna be doing here is getting the legs out really wide, substantially wider than shoulder width. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hip hinge, okay? Bend from the hips, keep that lower back as flat and straight as possible. We're gonna try to get our hands down so they touch the ground. And what you're trying to do is maintain an arch in your lower back the entire time by lifting up your butt bones this way, all right? Bend your knees slightly. It's gonna be very hard for you to do this, so do your best. It's okay if you round forward a little bit from the lower back like this, but we really want to be mitigating that as much as possible and arching the low back as hard as we can. We're keeping our fingertips on the ground. What I want you to do here as we hold this for about 30 seconds is kind of push the butt back really hard this way, all right? Put all your weight into your heels, hold this. You can even keep your head up, your chin up. That'll help to maintain that arch in the low back. It's okay if you're shaking here a little bit. That's kind of what we want to happen. That's a good sign that we're affecting change in the nervous system. After we're done with that, we're gonna kind of scoot our feet a little bit closer to each other so they're about shoulder width. We're gonna put our arms here, pull them in so that they're level with our chest. And now we're gonna do 10 good mornings or 10 hip hinges from here. Keeping the back straight, trying to maintain that arch in the low back. We're gonna bend forward and then come back up. Just like this. Getting a nice dynamic stretch of the hamstrings, working those low back muscles at the same time. We're gonna do 10. more. Then we're gonna take a little bit of a break. And as we're resting here, we're gonna do another set very similar to that. This one's gonna have a slight modification. Instead of a deep hamstring stretch, we're gonna do something that my friend Eric Goodman calls the founder, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and get into that right now. You're actually gonna set up a very similar way. Feet a little bit wider than shoulder width, all right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna hip hinge, bend forward. Again, keeping that lower back, trying to maintain an inward arch of the low back, keeping the rest of the spine straight. You're gonna lean forward, think of a door hinge from the hips. But from here, you're gonna bring your arms out in front of you, continue to raise them up until they're overhead. You're keeping weight in your heels the entire time, trying to create as much space between your fingertips, which are reaching out in front of your head, and your butt as possible. Reach really hard, keep all that weight in the back of the heels, try to maintain that arch in the low back. You're probably burning a lot in the low back right now. That's good. That's what we want. We're gonna hold this for a few more seconds. It's okay if you're shaking, we're almost done with this routine. Hold this position, 5, 4, 3, try to lift up a little bit higher, 2, try to reach out a little bit further, 1, and time. Kind of relax, bring your feet back together. We're gonna finish this with 10 more good mornings, okay? Bend forward from the hips, come back up, squeeze the glutes at the top. Just like this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Really stretch the hamstrings the whole time. 9. Keep that arch in the low back. 10. All right, I know you guys are probably tired. This is our last exercise though, and this is very important that we do this one because this is gonna work the obliques, which are commonly weak with swayback posture. In fact, all types of postural misalignments of the pelvis have root, or most of them do, root issues with the obliques, all right? So it's really important that we train the obliques unilaterally, single-sided. And one of the most effective ways to do this is just to do side planks, all right? So it doesn't have to be fancy. We're just gonna do side planks here. Basically, stack your feet together, elbow down, push your hips up, and this is it, right? We're gonna hold this for about 30 seconds. We're gonna work both sides this way. You should be feeling the contraction on the obliques that are closest to the floor, right here, all right? If while you're holding this, keep holding it. We're gonna do about 30 seconds. Again, I'm not timing you guys, I'm pretty bad at that. But keep holding it. If you want, we're gonna go ahead and switch sides now. You can palpate that area. What does that mean? Well, when you're holding yourself up, whatever arm is not holding you up, that can go over the obliques like this, and what you can do while you're holding this position is gently kind of tap the obliques like this. What this will do, it'll help you form a mind-muscle connection with the obliques. It'll help you contract them more and subsequently get them to become stronger, all right? Palpation like this, very powerful technique. We can't always do this to ourselves, you know, depending on the exercise and the position that we're in. But if you have the capacity to do it, it's always gonna help, okay? So that was one set. You're gonna do 2 sets of this when you do it on your own. If you want, you can include a superset with this, where you can do plank bends, which is what I call them, and superset that with side plank. What that might look like is you might do 10 kind of dips like this, and then on the 10th one, you're just gonna hold this for 30 seconds, all right? The more dynamic movement of lowering the hips up and down, that's gonna kind of pre-fatigue the obliques and make them work even harder when it comes to the isometric portion of that exercise where you're just holding it, okay? So that's it for today's workout. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and today's workout. If you did, then you're probably going to want another posterior pelvic tilt correction workout that I have designed for you. It's another one just like today, some additional exercises that you can do. I think you're gonna get a lot of value from that. You can kind of do this one in tandem with that one, alternate the two. If you wanna get that other posterior pelvic tilt correction workout, then just open up the description down below, click the first link available there. That's gonna take you over to my website. As soon as you get there, I'll ask you for your email and I'll send you a copy of this workout within 5 minutes. If you're looking for another place to get that additional posterior pelvic tilt correction workout, that's a mouthful, click this link right up here. That will take you over to that same page on my website. If you want to see an additional video similar to this one, check out this video over here. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do that by clicking over here. That's it for today. See you next time.